This is not a legitimate way. The boycott movement, BDS, delegitimization, is the 21st century form of the 20th century anti-Semitism. It is the same manifestation, except attacking the collective Jew, Israel, rather than the individual Jew, as we saw 70 years ago. So the critical aspect, I think, is understanding what the true nature of this danger is, what the real intent is, and that not to be fooled that because it's not politically correct to say I hate Jews, but you can say I hate Israel or Zionists, is just a cover for the ultimate goal of being the same thing, and that is to deny Jews the standing of all other people. So we recognize that when they say Israel, they mean all of us. And on Iran, we continue to support the efforts by members of Congress, just as we support the administration. We do not believe that there is a big difference between them, that it tends to be exaggerated. It's a question of the timing, whether you pass the legislation first and then wait, or you wait and then pass the legislation. We hope that Congress and the administration can work this out together because we all want the same outcome. They all want to see the Iran denied the capability of having a nuclear weapon. They want to see the Iran regime live up to the commitments it made in Geneva, which it is not. And we do not believe that to date they have changed, that Rouhani continues the same rhetoric, the same threats, the same practices. In fact, more executions under Rouhani than we saw under Ahmadinejad of political dissidents and others. It is outrageous that the world doesn't challenge this. We see the human rights violations, the increased support for terrorism, all of these things continuing unabated. So the idea that we're entering a new era or that we have seen any real change on the part of Iran, we believe has not been demonstrated, and that's why the strong position of the administration and of Congress, we need to have a unified approach of all of us working together to achieve the goal that we all want. And I think our task force will help educate people to the importance of this issue. It is a central issue of our times. Iran represents a global threat. It's active in the United States. It's active through Hezbollah in South America and all over the world. Every foreign leader we meet, everyone, whether it's African, Asian, European, today talks about the danger they face from Iran. And it's time the world community faces up to this threat and to the dangers that it represents. And lastly, language is very important. And we hope that we will see a toning down of some of the references and the loose talk and whether it's about other Jews or about administration officials or others, on both sides, by the way. And we have to recognize that words count, and words hurt, and words can do damage, and it's very hard sometimes to undo the damage when people use terminology that insults or isolates or denigrates. And I think that this is, we have an old adage, Hachamim hizharu b'divreichem, that wise people are very careful with their words. And we have to make sure that people think before they speak. Apologies don't undo the damage that is done when unfortunate things are said deliberately or not intended. Sometimes, difference in language can complicate things, but regardless, the result is the same, the impact is the same. And it diverts the attention from the really critical issue. And the critical issue is that we stand together against the threats that we see in this region and we see globally, that the United States and Israel remain the closest of allies. We see U.S.-Israel relations as very healthy, very solid right now. The day-to-day positives of the relationship get no notice. The periodic blips in the relationship or sometimes contentious issues that arise. But if you see how many times every month delegations from the United States visit here or Israeli delegations visit there, when they have all the joint exercises, all the joint cooperation in intel, military, security, agriculture, R&D, so many areas that get no notice. So I think that the U.S.-Israel relationship, from our experience, is that it's healthy, vital, vibrant, that support of the American people is as strong as ever for the state of Israel, and supporting Israel, Israel's right to defend itself, Israel's right to defend itself against a nuclear threat from Iran. On virtually all of the measures that one could come up with, the American people stand with Israel. So I hope that we can put things back into the proper context and focus on what's really important, and that is dealing with the problems of delegitimization, which the United States does not support. The U.S. absolutely does not support boycott. It fights it. And to make sure that Iran does not gain a nuclear weapons capacity.
You cannot ignore the personal relations between Kerry or the White House or President Obama and Netanyahu and the Defense Minister Yalom that called Kerry obsessive. So is he obsessive? Is the process is going to a good direction, or is he forcing or pushing Israel to a very bad direction?
I think that, obsessive, his psychiatrist has to answer. I can't tell you that. I don't know. I've known him for 30 years. I don't think that he's obsessive. I think he is committed to this process. I think he really has devoted himself. He doesn't visit 13 times if he isn't, or 12 times. I think that the relationship between him and the Prime Minister is much better than one would derive from the press. I think the same thing is true in terms of President Obama in Israel. Again, because the relationship is so close, any tension becomes the story. All the positives, all the communication that goes on between them, or sometimes on a daily basis, and certainly on a weekly basis, gets no notice because that's what everybody expects between the United States and Israel. So, look, these are very sensitive issues. We recognize it, that the things they're dealing with are life and death issues for Israel's future. But the United States recognizes it well, and they believe that the peace process is critical for Israel's security, for its impact in the region. I don't think anybody today argues anymore that the Palestinian-Israeli issue, you solve that, you solve the problems in the Middle East, as was true in the first round. I think today they understand that it's an important issue, but Iran is the central issue today in the Middle East. So, again, I agree that sometimes the words are misplaced. Sometimes people react emotionally and not necessarily intellectually. But you also have to understand why, because for the lines drawn in the sand by the words that are used, by positions that are taken, can have lasting impact. They don't go away. And if the other parties read it in a certain way and that determines their negotiating position, it becomes even more serious. So the balance between that is a very delicate one. But I hope and I think that certainly in terms of Mr. Yalom, the military cooperation between the United States and Israel is amazing, remains amazing, and far more, I think, than people realize how deep it is.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on the last thing that Malcolm said. We host on a regular basis representatives of the U.S. government and representatives of the Israeli government at meetings in New York. And we hear from every single representative of the Israeli government that the level of cooperation between Israel and the United States on the military level, the intelligence level, the economic level, has never been better than it is today. And so, as Malcolm says, every once in a while you will get some rhetoric that may be unfortunate, but that is hugely the exception, and the real relationships that are taking place on the ground have never been better.